Welcome to Spotlight, everybody. This is a very special Spotlight, and we're going to be covering how to survive World War III. So this is a big deal. So I have to go through a lot of stuff today, but first I have to tell you how we're restructuring things. This is a brand new time for the world. So I will explain, but first I want to say, for those people who have been following our work at Farsight, it's worth it. Now, we have had a lot of forecasts for the future. And a lot of people, just say, we got something wrong because it didn't happen on a specific day or whatever. And I've always told you time is difficult with remote viewing, identifying, because with remote viewing, you only can get like events. So when we did the post-election, the 2024 post-election aftermath, we got a lot of stuff of rioting in the streets, National Guards in the streets, a lot of disruption going on. And, we try to ballpark it in terms of the first few months. But, it's the timing is not the same as the event. The event is what is the consequence of the 2024 election. And, now it's June, and you're starting to see all of the results that we had for the 2024 election aftermath starting to happen. We've got the National Guard in Los Angeles. We've got rioting on the streets, and all evidence seems to suggest this is just the beginning. So if you just look at the stuff we had for the 2024 post-election aftermath, it took a few months, a little longer, but what are you complaining about? We got it right. We got it right. Now, we've also been having a lot of forecasts, and if you look at that project, the post-election 2024 aftermath, there's a lot of other stuff, and so we're expecting all that stuff to happen. It's happening in the streets right now, but it's going to spread. And now we have a lot of information that we published in our deep news stuff, and regarding, for example, the actually mysteries as well as deep news stuff, regarding the Ukraine stuff and the war. And a lot of our results seem to suggest that the war is going to spread outside of Ukraine and go into Western Europe. I'm going to be talking about that in a bit, but it looks imminent, like that is going to happen. And then we also have stuff about the Middle East, stuff dealing with Iran, dealing with Israel, dealing with the United States, dealing with the Middle East. And we're on the actual cusp of that stuff happening as well. So this is what we're doing. All of those projects were funded by our subscribers on FarsightPrime.com. Every single one, they paid for those projects because we have to pay our viewers and the whole thing. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be releasing, we've stored up a whole bunch of new stuff relating to Iran, Ukraine, the wars, the expansion into Europe, everything. And we haven't published all of that because every time we publish it, people say, okay, it's been a week now and nothing's happened. And it's so ridiculous. So we held off on a lot of stuff so that we can get two things in line. We wanted to get the events so that they looked like they were more near term, and then we'd release it so that when people see it, they'll say, oh, I see what's going on. If you have nearsighted glasses on all the time, and if it doesn't happen within a few weeks, you say, they were all screwed up. They didn't do anything right. And, it's hard for us as remote viewers to put up with all that, with everybody sort of downing us when, in fact, we're getting this stuff right. People have their own idea about, timing and stuff like that. You announce something's going to happen. And like when we did the ET stuff in the ET board meeting, the ETs, when we had our board meeting on November 13th, 2024, they told us exactly that the ships would start showing up in massive numbers in just a few days. And we published that video on the 15th, and on the 18th, the so-called drones, they were not drones, they were spaceships, but the so-called drones exploded all over the world, not just on the East Coast, but everywhere. And the U.S. government has come up with ridiculous things ever since. They first said it was an Iranian mothership using a Chinese tech. That lasted 2 hours before they pulled that one. And then about a week or so later, they came up with a new one saying it was a Chinese mothership that was putting. That didn't last very long either, although it did get some traction on the Sean Ryan podcast, which is a serious podcast. And then that went away. And then Donald Trump announced that they were just all FAA approved experimental aircraft, which nobody believed because they were flying all over the world. They weren't just East Coast New Jersey. So, and Donald Trump was actually not going to certain events in the country because of these so-called drones were all over the place. They couldn't guarantee his safety because they were flying all over the place. If they were FAA experimental aircraft, do you think that would have happened? So FAA approved. So nothing that the government has said was accurate about that. But that was the only time the ETs gave us a specific date, and bang, it happened. After that, they said the next thing is big ships. We're going to come with big ships. And then everybody said, okay, if they're not there within a week or two, Courtney's and FARSIGHT'S lying. Well, they never told us the date, but they did say the next big thing is big. The next major thing is big ships. But also in the months after that, I explained that each monthly message we got was one thing extra: the need to communicate, how humans should try to start communicating when the ships happen, one thing after the next. And finally, they explained to us that they sent all those massive tens of thousands of drones out in order to prove to people that it didn't matter showing up with the ships. The controllers have complete control of the information control system, so it didn't matter. It did not matter. Something else is needed. The information control system itself has to come down, and that's where we're headed right now. We're heading towards the collapse of the information control system. And so that's what we're really talking about today. So we have these FARSIGHT projects and the deep news stuff. We're going to start putting out a lot, but we're going to stagger everything. So from now on, all of the stuff that we're going to be coming out goes out first on FarsightPrime.com. Those people paid for these projects, they get them first. They all come out there. And a week later, then we'll put out the deep news for everybody on YouTube and so on like that. So if you want, and some of the stuff is going to be very time sensitive, so it's really good. So if you're a subscriber for FarsightPrime.com, you're getting your money's worth. You get everything first, including this video itself, Spotlight. We're going to put up the beginning of this Spotlight on YouTube for free for people to see so they know the new structure. But basically everything is going to be coming out on FarsightPrime.com first. And then like the deep news and stuff, the stuff we've been holding back because we've been waiting for things to get ready to happen. And now it looks like they're getting ready to happen. So we're going to give all of our subscribers that first. And then we're going to release the deep news and things like that on FARSIGHT's YouTube channel a week later. All right, but if you're here right now in the live stream, you're getting it live and you get the whole thing. But after that, it's going to be the permanent recording goes up on FarsightPrime.com. Okay, and then a week later, we'll put the permanent recording up on YouTube. All right, now, so that is with regard to our stuff that we've had. We've got a huge number of massive hits. We've rarely missed anything, but the timing is not always exactly what we expect. But that's the way remote viewing is. It only goes after events. You can't say what's going to happen in November on the 15th. You can't do that. You're going after events, and then those events come through, and you're ballparking it. You use normal forensic stuff to try to figure out the date it is. And so we, as remote viewers, we're talking all the time. We're looking at things that are happening in the world and saying, hey, does it look like something's going to happen? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? When we're trying to figure out the dates as well. When we know that we know what's going to happen, but getting the exact date is hard. So we have to use normal forensic stuff to sort of figure that stuff out. All right. So, and it's not that time is fuzzy. It's just that the remote viewing and time, as we understand it, is just a number, and you don't get a number from remote viewing. You get an event. Something happens. So that's it. All right. Now, there's real good reasons to believe that we are on the edge of World War III. Now, first, for those of you who say, Courtney, you're just being, hyperbolic here. I mean, why don't you just calm down, chill out, have a margarita and go to the beach or something. I don't drink anyway. But let's go to the European Union. Now, Ursula von der Leyen, I hope I pronounced her name right. She's president of the European Commission. She is essentially the leader of all of Europe. She's head of the European Union. Consider her she is the president of the European Commission. That means she's president of Europe. Each country has their own has their own governance, but the governance for all of Europe is got a president, and her name is Ursula von der Leyen. That's Leyen. Now, this is her talking, okay? She has been repeatedly saying this ever since the war with Russia and Ukraine has been going on, and she's emphasizing it more and more. And she's formerly a conservative German politician. She's not someone who is trying to get YouTube videos get higher ratings. She's not trying to scare people. Her job is simply to tell people the truth. And she is now saying she's emphasized the need, and I'm getting this from Google AI. So if you Google it and say, this is what I got. Has emphasized the need for European Union citizens to have enough food, water, and essential items to last at least 3 days, which is 72 hours, in case of a crisis. And this recommendation, this is a formal recommendation. It's been going on for months now. This is not like yesterday. This recommendation is like almost a year, maybe a year and a half it started. This recommendation is part of the European Union's new preparedness union strategy. And here's the key, that's a formal document. So here's the key points. New preparedness. Von der Leyen stated that new realities require a new level of preparedness, highlighting the changing security landscape in Europe. 72-hour self-sufficiency. The European Union recommends that the European Union citizens be self-sufficient with essential supplies for a minimum of 72 hours in emergencies. And this advice is included in the European Union's Preparedness Union Strategy, which is a formal document, which addresses a range of threats including cyber attacks, climate change, disease, and potential armed aggression. Beyond food and water, this is still from Google AI, while food and water are crucial, the strategy, this is the European Union's formal strategy, also recommends preparing a survival kit that includes items like torches, matches, radios, identification papers, and phone chargers. And then, learning from crisis. The strategy reflects the lessons learned from the past events such as the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's actions in Ukraine, and emphasizes the need for proactive preparedness. Focus on citizen preparedness. The strategy encourages the public to take practical measures to prepare for crises. Ensuring essential services. The strategy also focuses on maintaining essential services such as healthcare and drinking water in emergencies. Okay, so we're going to start that as a basis. Now that's the President of the European Union talking. She's not going to try to rattle your cage. That's a very low-key, conservative, minimal statement. She's not going to, say, the sky is falling, scream, try to rattle people that way. But the very fact that she's saying that much tells you, put two and two together, there's a lot more she's working with. And this totally really happened as a result of the Ukraine war. That's really how it all started. It really wasn't the COVID-19 thing. It was the Ukraine war that sort of triggered this. And it was either a year and a half or 2 years ago she started talking like this. Okay, so we're going to be going over the basic stuff for you being prepared. But let me go through some of the elements that would suggest that World War III is a real possibility. Folks, let's put two and two together. Ukraine has lost this war. They can't beat Russia. They are killing so many more Russians than the Ukrainians are losing, but the Ukrainian population is small relative to Russia. Russia is losing the battle on the battlefield with regard to number of deaths, but they're just pumping more and more people out there to fight. And the Ukrainians can't win, and they're losing territory, and they're losing people, and the Ukrainians don't have enough people. So President Zelensky knows that this is a lost war unless NATO and the United States can be inserted into the war to fight Russia directly. That's the only way. So NATO's and United States is being pulled into it. Ukraine's total operations are get the United States and Europe into this war so that they are battling Russia. So that helps explain what happened just last week when the Ukrainians took out $7 billion of Russian nuclear-armed bombers. This is the nuclear fleet. And they took them out. They weren't anywhere near Ukraine. They were like on the other side of Russia. They were nowhere near Ukraine. They were way over 1,000 miles, more than that, kilometers, in places that had nothing to do. And those bombers were sitting on the ground, and they were open, so you could see them, because that was part of the nuclear treaty that Russia has with the United States, that the weapons have to be seen so they can be accounted for. Now, there is no possible way in the world that the Ukrainians could have pulled that off. It was a very tricky maneuver, getting these really complicated launchers, disguised, camouflaged, way over 1,000 miles away on the other side of Russia. And then the roofs popped off and these missiles came out and they destroyed the bombers. There's no possible way in the world that could have been done without the United States intelligence services being deeply involved. There's no way it could have happened. Ukrainians, they can't do anything like that, and Russia knows that. So there are elements within the United States government that probably goes beyond the United States, and it probably does not involve Donald Trump, that want a war for whatever reason. They're really pushing for a war, and they're not stupid. They know that taking out the part of the nuclear fleet of Russia is going to trigger a response. So that's huge. So now what we have is the generals in Russia, for those people who are following this stuff, the generals in Russia are absolutely demanding a limited nuclear strike against Ukraine. So they're talking about escalating all of the weapons that Ukraine gets, and the targeting and personnel that gets these sophisticated things to work. They're from Europe or the United States, but they're not Ukrainians that are capable of doing that type of thing. And so what you have now is Britain, France, and Germany have all now allowed their long-range missiles to be used deep inside Russia. Now, the Ukrainians are going to do that because their incentive is to get Russia really upset and then have Russia really kick back in a way that there's spillover for the fighting into Western Europe. And that's what it looks like is going to happen. The spillover is going to go into Western Europe, and that's the only thing that Ukraine is saying could possibly help them, because that would trigger a full response from Europe, from the NATO allies, and the United States. Otherwise, Ukraine is history. So the incentives on the part of Ukraine, and now we see the incentives, the mandatory incentives on the part of Russia, are to escalate this thing. So this is going to grow big. Now, in addition to that, the stuff in the West and the United States is likely going to grow big as well. All of the enemies of the United States know that the only reason the United States has been getting involved with so many places around the world forever is because of the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. We're like an island, and it's hard to get to us. So what's happening is the enemies know that they've got to attack the continental United States in order for the United States to start, not doing this type of stuff. So during the last 4 years, during the Biden and Harris administration, they had an open door policy where they let in, 10 million people. Within those people, there were lots of people that were sent in, operatives from Iran and Al-Qaeda, and, you can assume from Russia as well, that were placed in, and they're sleepers. They're not actively doing stuff. But they also came in with weapons, especially, Iran and Al-Qaeda. You can be sure that they brought in weapons. And just think, if they can bring in drugs with 18-wheelers, and that's the only way you can supply the level of drugs that's in the United States right now, then they can bring in weapons as well. So you can assume that they have missiles and other things. And you can hear people talk about this on the Sean Ryan podcast on YouTube. So this isn't just me talking. So these people are sleepers. They're not actually doing something directly now. But when things start coming out, there's going to be a need to distract the United States from getting fully engaged and just pounding Russia or pounding Iran or whatever. And so something's going to happen on the other side. So you can expect that what we're looking at with regard to World War III, it looks as inevitable as you can possibly look at it from this perspective. It hasn't happened yet, and maybe it won't happen, but all the ingredients are there. That's why von der Leyen's comments here on the European Union stuff of being prepared really should be taken seriously. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go through what you should do to prepare yourself for what I think is coming. Okay, and look, if it doesn't happen, I'd be so happy that, Armageddon did not happen, World War III, everybody negotiated a peace and everyone went home. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So you need to know what to do to prepare, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So this is the end of the video that's going to be going up on YouTube. What the rest of the video is going to be going up on FarsightPrime.com immediately. As soon as this is over, we edit it and we put it up on FarsightPrime.com. The entire thing will come out on YouTube a week later. But FarsightPrime.com, those subscribers deserve to get this stuff first. And this is absolutely crucial information. And then the other stuff that we're going to be coming out with, all the deep news stuff that gives you background for what's going on in Iran, what's going on in Europe, what's going on inside the head of Vladimir Putin. All that stuff is going to be coming out, but it's always going to be staggered 1 week in advance for FarsightPrime.com before it comes here. The Farsight mysteries, the major mysteries, like we just had a major mystery on Pine Gap, Australia. That is the most secret military intelligence base dealing with extraterrestrial phenomena anywhere. It's way more secret than Area 51. It's in Australia, and we just released what that is. It's the first full description of what's in Pine Gap, Australia. So when things are so secret they can't be kept in Area 51, they go to Pine Gap. And that's the first major project anywhere on what's actually there, and we just released it. So if you haven't seen it, it's up on FarsightPrime.com. Okay, so this is the end of the initial YouTube stuff that's going, and everything, however, that's going up on YouTube. The rest of this live stream, if you're getting it now on live stream, you're getting the whole thing. But the rest of it is going to go up as a permanent recording on FarsightPrime.com, and in a week, we're going to put the rest of it up on YouTube. So anyway, I want to thank all of our subscribers for making this possible, and you're getting it first. All right. What do you need to do? All right. All right. So it's one thing to have, you should have enough food and water for 72 hours. That's not going to cut it. But that's a good thing to have. That's a minimal. It's like hint, 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 prepare. But there's basic living elements that you need to be talking about. And there's a lot of stuff that's involved with that. I'm going to be showing you the stuff. I have it right here. All types of stuff. I'm going to be showing you what this stuff is. Okay, let's go over the basic elements first. I'm going to be talking about them first, and then I'm going to be a show and tell of what the actual stuff looks like. Water. Let's start with water. First thing you need is storage. You need something to store water in. The first thing that goes out when a big disruption happens is the power and the water. So you're going to turn on the sinks, and the water may not come out of the sinks. And the power that you're relying on won't be there. The water supplies done by the counties and around the country rely on power to pump all that water out. And when the power goes out, the water goes out. Not immediately, because there's some pressure. The water comes with pressure, because you see the water towers up there and they have pressure. So, but to refill those water towers, you need electric pumps to pump the water up there. So you have to prepare for storage of water. Now what I use, and you can get this on Amazon, you can also get this on Harbor Freight, you can get this, Walmart might have some of it. I use 5-gallon jugs, big plastic 5-gallon jugs. That's the only thing I haven't brought in front of me right now. But 5-gallon jugs of water is what I use, and I typically have 4 of them, and that can carry 20 gallons of water, and that's for like sort of immediate use. Okay, and then you have to have a source, because you cannot say that you're going to always have that's going to be enough. So you have to have a source of water. Now this goes into the situation of if something bad happens, and I think we should be prepared for that. Do you go someplace, or do you shelter in place? My recommendation is to try to prepare yourself to shelter in place. If really bad stuff happens, it's going to be a mess on the roads, and it may not be safe on the roads. It's better for you to prepare yourself as much as you can where you are. Now, if you're in an apartment building, 10th floor, 6th floor, or whatever it is, and the water has gone out in the apartment building, and there's no electricity in the apartment building, okay, you have to go. You have to leave. There's not much you can really do. You can have a couple days worth of water stored in the apartment building, but you're going to be having to hoof it. So, then you should be thinking about where you can go. And if it looks like it's going to be a bad situation and you have any advanced warning, do it before it actually hits. So if you're going to be going out like immediately as soon as the roads are completely clogged, you're going to have a really tough time. So if you can leave a little bit before that, and get out and get to some place where there is water available, some type of friend's cottage or whatever, that would be a useful thing. But if you have a house, or if you have a lower level apartment that's not like on the 6th floor or the 10th floor or the 8th floor or whatever like that, then you might be able to store enough to get by and shelter in place. But just understand, you may not be able to flush the toilet, and if you're in an apartment, that's an issue. And if you're in an urban area where you really can't go out and use the toilet facilities on the sidewalk, then you've got some issues you have to deal with. But if it's possible for sheltering in place, that's what I recommend. Stay where you are. Don't go out onto the roads unless you have to. And if you have to go, try to go in advance. Okay? If you see things happening around the country, just make sure everything is ready for you at your friend's cottage or someplace, or your friend's house somewhere in a more rural area, so you can get to it, and get to it before the actual roads get clogged. All right, let's say you have actually a house, or you have a friend's house you can stay at. You need a source of water. So you need something like a creek or a lake. You have a source of water, or a well. Now, I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said, yeah, I have mine tested so that I know it's clean. I said, no, don't even worry about getting tested. Testing water is ridiculous. You shouldn't even worry about getting water tested. You should assume it's terrible. You should assume no matter what the test is, it could be bad the next day. So my advice is, you can test the water, but you shouldn't rely on the test at all, period, full stop, end of story. Assume that whatever the water supply you're getting, it's bad. Just assume it's bad. If you drink it, you'll get sick. So even if it's clean water from a well, just assume it's bad. And so, because when Armageddon happens, when the bad stuff happens, you never know what's going to be happening to the well water or anything. So just, make no assumptions about anything. So you need a source, a creek or a lake. Now, once you have the water source in place, you have to think about how are you going to deal with it. You just can't drink it, and you can't sometimes even wash with it if it's dirty enough. So if it's a creek, you have to be thinking about, or a lake or anything, you have to be thinking about disinfecting the water and then cleaning the water. So you have to make it clean. You have to make it acceptable. So for disinfecting, you have to take the water from the creek. I'm going to use the example of a creek, but a lake or a river or anything, or even a well, you have to take the water in a bucket. And the bucket, I do not recommend metal buckets because they're too big and heavy. They have plastic buckets. I have mine upstairs. I didn't bring it downstairs to show you, but it's a plastic bucket. It's like a just thing. It opens up and has a rim on the top, and it collapses down to look like a flat pancake. And you take it out to the creek and you sort of fill it up, and you bring the water. And you can also use a large plastic jug or something, anything that you can to carry the water, a large pot. You have to be able to carry it. And then if you take, you can get like plastic jugs of like vinegar or something like that. The large plastic jugs and have a handle on the side. Same shape as like bleach jugs, big bleach jugs or anything like that. Well, if you take like a large vinegar jug with, finish all the vinegar, use it all, and then don't throw it away, keep the jug. If you cut the top off of the jug, you have like a funnel. It has a handle, and the spout at the bottom becomes like a funnel, and you can hold it very easily, and you can pour the water from your bucket into your storage container. So that's a really easy way to do that. And then once it's in the storage container, you have to put disinfectant in it. Now there's two types of disinfectant that I sort of like, and again, I'm not telling you to take my advice. I'm just giving you what I do, what my advice is for myself, and then you can follow along and decide for yourself what you think is the right thing. So, all right, let's put it on that level. It's like medical advice. You can't give medical advice because I'm not a medical doctor, but I can tell you what I do and then tell you you follow your own advice from your own doctor to find out what to do. So this is what I sort of do. I like two different types. One's called Aqua Tabs, AQUA tabs, Aqua Tabs, and the other is called Potable Aqua. Now, Aqua Tabs is a chlorine-based, that's bleach-based disinfectant. And what you do is I take a pill, a tablet, and I drop it into the large container, and that usually kills everything in about 30 minutes. I usually give it an hour, and that kills everything. But the water is not clean, it's just sterile. Okay, it's still water from the lake or water from the creek. It's dirty water, but at least it's killed the organisms that were going to hurt me, virus as well as bacteria and parasites and stuff like that. Potable aqua is different. That is an iodine based, so that makes the water a little bit yellowish in color because it's got iodine in it. All right, and that takes a little longer too. That's like 4 hours for it to kill everything. But anyway, Aqua Tabs, chlorine-based, and Potable Aqua, iodine-based, but they both disinfect the water nicely, okay? Then I need to clean it, because I don't want to drink the water like that. Even if it's not going to kill me, I don't want to drink it like that. So then I use a Brita filter. Now, you never use a Brita filter on infected water. If it's not sterile water, the Brita filter is not going to fix that. The Brita filter is good for getting rid of the chlorine. It's good for getting rid of the taste, the bad taste. It makes it clean water. So, the Brita filter that comes in the pitchers and things like that. So I take the disinfected water and I pour it into the Brita filter, and that cleans it and that makes it good tasting. Okay? And again, you need the bucket and you need the funnel. Okay? And again, also it's very good to have like if you have those large vinegar bottles that you can see at the grocery store that are made of plastic, those are great to fill up with clean water and for pouring. They're also very good for showering. So if you take those jugs, like a big vinegar jug, and fill it up with water, you can pour it on yourself and shower that way and clean yourself that way. And some people like to have a portable shower for bathing. I have a portable shower as well. And I actually have a bunch of these things here. I'm trying to give us enough time to go through as much of it as possible. But mine has like a black base in a bag, and you put it on top of your car and let the sun hit it, and that warms it up, and then I have a warm shower. So that's it. Okay. Now that covers the water issue. We haven't covered the power issue. Let me check the chat. A shower, what's that? Someone's asking. Okay, all right. So we have the next thing is power. You need power. You need power to recharge your cell phones and stuff like that. Assume that when the bad stuff happens, you're not going to be able to plug things into the outlet. Just assume that kind of power goes away. So you're going to need some type of power source, and in my opinion, solar is the best. So this is a little pricey for some people, so this is not for everybody, But this is what I do. I have solar panel cells. Now, I have the portable ones, but they're good enough. Okay? All right. This is the ones that I use. They are like this. And they open up. You see, they open up, and they have four major panels in here. Okay? And this particular brand that I use is called Gray Cell, or GRE Cell. Okay? Anyway, that's what I use. All right. And that produces quite a bit of power. But what you do with that power is you charge a battery with it. Now, you can plug a lot of things into that thing, but you need to charge a battery with it, because the battery is what you need to charge your cell phone with and things like that. Now, you can plug a cell phone into stuff like that, but basically, solar power generates power right then and there. But like, you need it like a battery so that you can charge things with it. So the type of battery, I don't go really big into these things. They have people that get really big batteries and things like that. I don't do that. I get something like a Jackery. And this is a Jackery type of battery. And this battery plugs into that polar solar cell. So while the sun is shining, it's charging this thing. Okay? And then once this thing is charged, I have a battery that I can plug my cell phones into. And if you are listening correctly, you're realizing I'm not talking about charging anything that requires heating. Like, I'm not going to be charging an electric blow dryer. I'm not going to be putting a blow dryer or a major thing. It can charge things like a shaver. It can charge things like cell phones, things like that. But anything that takes a lot of wattage, it can't do. That kind of a battery, it's not big enough to handle things like that. So this is portable power, but it's for things like cell phones and shavers and things like that. Okay, so that's what I really think. All right, now, so you need a battery that is chargeable with the solar panels, and you need a battery like I just showed you. That's a primary battery for charging cell phones and things like that. Now, there is the issue also of a car. Very often, if you have a car, you need something to start it or boost it because the battery can go dead. And so what I always carry in my car is this. I bought this at Walmart. And this is an EverStart thing, okay? An EverStart thing. And I just carry it in my car all the time. And what this has is it has cables for getting the battery started, but it also has this for pumping the tires, and I have used it. So if you have a flat and you're driving someplace out in a rural area to get away from Armageddon, that's not a good thing. So you need to be able to have some type of means of pumping up the gas, pumping up the air in the tires, and also the double duty to have it able to start the car if the car battery dies. Okay. So, and it can die for a bunch of reasons. You left the lights on. I mean, any type of thing. I mean, you're rattled when Armageddon happens, so things can happen. And in addition, I always carry this as well. This is a portable, it's light, and it's a portable tire pump thing that connects up with the battery of the car. But I don't use this as a first thing. This is a second thing in case this is sort of a fallback, because it requires the battery of the car to actually work in order for this air pump thing to actually go. Okay, and then what you should have is a means of patching a car tire that doesn't require you to take the tire off and patch the inside. If this is an emergency situation and you run over a nail, you've got to be able to find the nail on the tire just by inching the car forward a foot or two, and then getting out of the car with the brake on, and parking brake on, and in the parking transmission, and then going around and looking till you finally locate where the nail is on the tire that's losing air. You have to be able to take the nail out, and then you have to be able to put a plug in to stop the leak from happening again. So you need a tire repair kit, okay? And again, this is just for emergency purposes, and then you need to fill up the air in the tire again, and hopefully as soon as services start to be available, you get to a proper gas station, or you get to a proper car repair dealer, the service department of a dealer, and have them formally fix the tire the way it's supposed to be fixed. But you don't want to be in the middle of nowhere and have a flat, and then you have no vehicle. So you have to be able to deal with the tires as well as the battery for the vehicle. And always have jumper cables. Now, jumper cables are only good if you happen to have another car nearby that drives and you can connect the two. But they're not very heavy. They don't cost very much, and when you're in a pinch, they work. Okay. All right. So that deals with the power issue. So we've covered water and we've covered power. Next thing we deal with is food. Now, this directly addresses Ursula von der Leyen's stuff. Now, if you're talking about 72 hours of food, you can talk about canned foods, you can talk about dehydrated foods, you can talk about all types of things. If you have power in your house or apartment or condo, okay, you're lucky. You can you can cook it the normal way. But I always assume that you won't have anything. All right. And so dried foods such as rice, beans, and dried fruits are extremely valuable. Dried fruits, they don't rot. And I'm not talking just raisins. I'm talking dried pineapples, dried mangoes, dried figs. And I always get organic everything. But those types of things are really great. And now the rice and the beans, they can be soaked in clean, disinfected water. And once they're soaked, it doesn't take that much to cook them. So that's what I sort of recommend. However, if you're talking about short term, there are places where you can get like cartons of food that are pre-cooked, and you just open them up and heat them up, and you're eating there. That's what I use when I go camping a lot, because when I go camping, I'm really out there shooting UFOs, doing alien photography, and also surfing. And so in those cases, I don't like to cook anything like raw. Formally, so I use something like those pre-cooked stuff in cartons, and I heat them up in my camper's microwave and stuff like that. So those things are actually useful, but if you're going to be there for any long period of time, I really recommend getting a very, very, very large bag of rice and a couple large bags of beans. I usually get mung beans and pinto beans and then red beans and black beans, plus a huge bag of rice, so it just is there, okay? And lots of dried fruits, okay? All right, now let's talk about clothing. First, you need to wash your clothing. You can't stink all the time. You don't know how long this is going to last, so you need a drying rack. At Walmart, I typically pick up my drying racks. I like the ones that are made out of bamboo and wood, but you can get them also made out of metal, like stainless steel and stuff. The stainless steel ones do rot. I mean, they rust. Even though they say they're stainless steel, they still have edges that rust. But they're still useful, and they're still good, and I've used them. But you need a drying rack, so that when you wash your clothes, you wash them, and you hang them up to dry. And now you need a washing bag. Now, a washing bag is something you can order on Walmart. I'm sorry, on Amazon. They might have it at Walmart, but I know you can get them on Amazon. It's basically a large plastic bag, and it's like a washing machine. And you open it up, you put your clothes in it, and then you need detergent. I definitely do not recommend having liquid detergent in a big jug. It's crazy. It's heavy, it's large. You have to get the detergent sheets like sheets of paper. And you can get those on Amazon. I've also seen those at Whole Foods, and I've also seen those at Kroger's. But Amazon has a huge selection of those. They're sheets. They're like individual sheets. And for those bags that you use, it's a large plastic bag. You put your clothes in it, add some water, and then squish it around. One sheet only, small size, is enough to clean one bag of stuff. And then you turn the bag upside down, and you sort of get the water out of it, and then you put water in it again to rinse it out, and you rinse it again, and that's it. And then you you can use just like lake water for something like that. You don't have to have it be the super disinfected water, as long as it doesn't have like, I go to Africa a lot. Some lake water I would not do that with because it could have parasites that burrow in through the skin. But unless you're doing something like that, you can just use like regular lake water or creek water or something like that to do the clothes washing, and use the sheet detergents. You don't want to use your drinking water for that because it uses a lot of water and you run out of the drinking water. So you want to be able to preserve the drinking water for drinking, and then the washing water for clothes. That's something else. All right, now let's talk about some of the extra supplies that you probably would need. You need a portable toilet, in my opinion. Now, there's a bunch of things you can do about that. Let me show you what I use. This is my portable toilet. Now, I actually don't use this as a toilet. I use it as a seat inside a changing room. Because when I go camping, there's usually public facilities, a toilet at the campsite that the camp people, insist that you use. So they don't allow you to actually use the toilet as a toilet. But if you're in an Armageddon situation and you're in the outback, you don't have that luxury. Anyway, this is what the toilet actually looks like when you actually do it. And when you open it up, it opens up, it just unfolds, and it becomes like a seated toilet. And you can put a bag, decomposable, one that is, rots, and you can put a bag for storing things, and that takes care of that. And so, now that is actually very useful, but having this toilet is really, for me, it's more of a luxury, not a necessity. And the reason I use it again as a seat, because my camper is very small, and I need a place where I can stand up to get into my swimming gear, because I use full body swimming gear, and my camper is so small it's very hard for me to get into my gear in the camper. So anyway, that's what I do. All right, now in terms of drinking water, it's good to be able to get the drinking water, but you don't want to get it out of your big jugs that you're having your 5-gallon stuff all the time and get a glass. So I carry these things. These are stainless steel. I have small ones, and this is a large one. This is a stainless steel container for holding water. And when I go places, I don't like to carry the plastic bottles of water. I don't like drinking water out of plastic bottles. But also, you have to replenish those by going to the grocery store, and the grocery store may not be open. So these stainless steel things, they keep the temperature nice, and they hold quite a bit of water. And I have like 6 of these things, and they're really good for keeping water in the car or wherever I happen to be. Okay? All right, now let's talk about cooking. Okay? Actually, let me change gears a little bit. If Armageddon happens, you don't have toilet paper. It just doesn't happen. Okay. So what I recommend, what I do, and I'm not saying everybody else is going to want to do this, but a lot of this stuff, I go camping all the time, so I am prepared for this type of stuff just for the camping reasons. I like to have a portable bidet. Now, a portable bidet is if you don't have any toilet paper. This is a portable bidet, okay? Now, you can also just use like a water bottle that a plastic water bottle that people drink from, but then you have, it's a little bit messier, but that also works. But that works good if you have any like toilet paper or anything, but it also, you can just wet it. But anyway, sometimes a bidet is better. And so, but it also works just to have a water bottle, a plastic water bottle you take to wherever you're going and splash yourself to clean it. But a portable bidet is like this, meaning you put the water in here, and then you pull this out, and it's a bidet, and it's like that, okay, and you squeeze it. Girls love this thing. So it's also very useful because because you don't have toilet paper, you don't have a way to clean yourself. So either you're using a plastic bottle and pouring water into your hand and splashing yourself, or you're using this and squirting, and then it squirts up and it cleans yourself. Girls love this thing. So if you have a girlfriend or something like that, they appreciate this type of special treatment when Armageddon happens. Otherwise, remember, you don't have toilet paper. And you're stupid if you actually think you're going to carry toilet paper when Armageddon happens. That's the last thing you're really worried about. Now, you should also have a source of light, because it gets dark, and for security you need light. Walmart has these little light things that they sell in packs of like 6. And they're really cheap. Like a pack of 6 of them costs like $10. And what happens is you lift this thing up and light comes out, and it has like a little lantern, and they're really bright. And it usually has one large one, and this is one of the smaller ones. And then you close it and the lights go off. So you need some way to light yourself. And these are always LED lights. And then the little flashlights, remember, you don't want to get flashlights that have bulbs that have a heating element. You want to use the LED ones. These are the types of flashlights that I use. I use pencil. They're like pencil flashlights. Last for a long time, and they're incredibly bright because they're LED lights. So you have to have some type of light when something like this happens. Okay, so I've covered the portable toilet, the portable bidet, and I haven't covered the portable changing room. I don't know if you want to see that. I'll show it to you anyway. I have to have this. This looks like a big flying saucer. Does everyone see that? If I open it up, it pops up, poof, into a huge changing room. So if I'm out camping and I have my camper and I need to get into my stuff that looks like a wetsuit, I like to stand up. And that's why I like the portable toilet. I don't use it as a portable toilet. I actually use it as a seat. And I use it inside the changing room. And it pops up, and it's like an enclosed place where you can stand up and change and stuff like that. So that's what I use. Now, all of this stuff isn't absolutely unnecessary for the emergency, but I'm just telling you what I normally carry anyway. All right, you need also your personal items such as toothbrush, soap, chargeable shaver, and you need rechargeable batteries and a way to recharge them. So your recharger has to be able to plug into your battery situation so that you can recharge your AAA or AA batteries. And you're going to need a first aid kit. Okay? It doesn't have to be a big one, just a small one will actually work. Let me see how we're doing on time, because there's a lot of stuff I want to show you. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. We're getting sort of close to the edge. So I'm going to be having to do a part 2 on this because there's a lot of stuff I haven't covered. But the two things I have a little stove that works with like leaves and twigs and stuff, like, because you can't always be assuming you're going to have like logs to burn or butane or propane, things to cook on. So I have two things that I have sort of as a last gasp for cooking, and one of them is a small little stove that opens up, and I may be able to show it to you now if time doesn't run out. And the other is a solar heater, a solar thing. And the solar one I use is the one by GoSun. Now this is the one-person thing, okay? But it works great. I have tested it out. It does work. It does cook things, and it comes with cleaning items as well. And let me show you how that thing looks. So this is how the thing looks out of the box, and I unravel it, and it looks like this. Okay. Oops. What did it? Oh gosh, my thing fell out. It's okay. It's the metal part. Okay. The food goes in this tray, and then this tray goes in there. All right. Now it has a thing for keeping it open, and I'm gonna. And this is what it is. And it has a stand. I'm not going to show you the stand right now. Oh gosh, I keep dropping it. Okay. This is what it's like. And basically the stand works so that it's angled up and it aims towards the sun. So, and then the sun hits here, and this is actually a vacuum tube. So it's got like a double layer, okay? And so it's got vacuum in the middle. So the sun goes into this tube, and the tube is where the food is, okay? So the food is in here. And you leave it there for about 3 hours. You can do it shorter depending on what you're cooking. and it cooks it. I mean, it cooks it. It cooks it. It's like cooked. And this has no power requirements. I don't have to plug it in or anything like that. So, and then afterwards I have to clean it, of course. And then I have to clean the tube that comes out that you saw me drop a few times. And then it's really tidy and packed up. And I put it in its bag. And it comes with things like a brush for cleaning the inside and stuff like that. It also comes with these little trays to go inside the tube. But they're made of plastic and I don't trust them. So I've never actually, I use it like this. If I did, I would probably coat them with aluminum foil. But anyway, that's how I do that. So that's the solar power cooker type of a thing. And the only other thing I'm going to show you right now is you need to be able to have access to fire. So if you have these lighters, a bunch of them, they're good to actually have. Now there's a ton of stuff I have not shown you. I haven't shown you all the different cooking equipment things. I haven't even shown you the little shovel that you buy, that you have to use when you go to the bathroom and you're out in the middle of nowhere. Because you just can't go behind a tree and leave it. You gotta bury it. And you're not gonna have toilet paper, so you've gotta deal with stuff. So because I do camping a lot, that stuff is sort of natural to me. So let's recap a little bit. The absolute minimum from Ursula von der Leyen, the president of Europe, is food and water for 72 hours. Okay? And you can keep that in your apartment and hope for the best that you don't have to, go somewhere in order to use the bathroom. So anyway, but 72 hours of stored food and stored drinking water is good. And but if World War III happens and there's actual disruptions, supplies are going to not show up. Grocery stores are not going to be open. You're not going to be able to get what you want. And even if the grocery stores are open, they're going to be sold out instantly. There'll be panic buying. So you have to be sort of ready. So minimum stuff is food, and I sort of recommend dried rice, beans, and a variety of beans and dried fruits. And then a water thing. So remember the big things are power, some type of power, elements, and some type of water solution, and some type of food. Those are the really big things. The other things are, for a little more extended stay, is clothing and these extra supplies, of which I've gone through a few of them. I really want to show you some of the other things, but I'm going to have a part 2 because they cover a lot of small things, including like utensils, and I haven't showed you the little furnace that I have for burning like leaves and twigs and things like that can cook. There's a lot of things I haven't shown you, so I'm going to do that. That's going to be a part 2 for those people who are interested. But that's my advice for surviving World War III if it happens. Do not assume that it will not affect you. Now, I have not covered anything that's not conventional. Okay, so I haven't covered anything in case of a nuclear situation. I was alive back in the days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And so the nuclear thing was very real for everybody back then. And all the kids were told to go under their tables, under their desks at school. And the blast from New York would be coming from that direction, so we had to face away from that and away from the windows and get into the sort of fetal position. That was very real for us. It looks like we're getting to a situation where we may have to do that type of thinking again. I'm not saying that type of thing would happen. I would think it's more likely that there would be conventional type of weaponry use that would cause disruption in the United States, not nuclear. But the Russian generals right now are talking about a nuclear strike of Ukraine. So they're talking about the use of tactical nuclear weapons, which are the smaller ones. And I haven't covered anything with regard to that type of thing. So that's another thing. I guess the only other thing I wanted to say, if you have followed me so far, is cash. You should have some cash with you. Do not assume that your cards will work in situations like that. Okay, now if do understand that the reason I'm putting out this video now and not like 6 months ago, we knew this stuff was coming like a year ago, but it just wasn't time. It wasn't like ready, because there was too much stuff that still had to develop before people saw the need for it. And if I put it out a year ago, people would have said, oh, this is crazy. And they would have looked at it, 30 days would have gone by, and they said, nothing happened. Okay. So we had to hold off on stuff like that. So a lot of the new videos that we're going to be coming out with, we've actually done months and months ago, but we were waiting for the climate, the political climate, to sort of ripen, to get ready for it, so that the people will see now is the time to see those videos. A lot of them are already up on FARSIGHT'S.com. A lot of the deep news type of stuff dealing with Iran and Ukrainian type of stuff, the expansion of the war into Western Europe, that's all. A lot of it's up. But we look at what people say in the comments below on video on YouTube, as well as FARSIGHT'S.com, and they weren't seeing it happen immediately. So we said, let's hold off on some of this new stuff until the political climate changes, because we knew the political climate would change. We waited till it got a little closer, but now we're here. Now we're here. So we have to think about it. So that's my part 1 of surviving World War III. I hope some of it has been helpful, and I would like to know if it matches your experience, or if you think other things would be important. Again, I have not covered anything if it's nuclear. I haven't covered iodine use, iodine pills, or anything like that. I haven't covered anything that would be nuclear. I've covered only stuff that would happen if there was conventional attacks in the United States, Iran, Al-Qaeda, possibly Russia, things that would disrupt the normal flow of activity in the United States, get things all sort of disrupted, and disrupt the supply chain, so that things could be out of whack for a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months. And this is the type of thing we want to be able to think about. All right, and in Europe, they are thinking about this already. This is front and center stuff in Europe, okay? All right, everybody, so I will see you next week. And I don't know exactly what day we're going to be doing this next week, because I can't do the broadcast on Sunday because something else is happening on Sunday. So I either may do this on Saturday, or we may have to just postpone 1 week, because there's so much happening with the news. We have to. And by the way, you're not getting any of this stuff on mainstream news in terms of what's really happening to crank us in the direction of World War III. All the mainstream news outlets are just stupid. And if you're looking at any kind of stuff like that, you will get stuff on the P. Diddy trial. You will get stuff on the Harvey Weinstein retrial. You will get, various stuff. You'll get the LA riots on mainstream news. But, anything dealing with what's really happening in the world out there with regard to a possible World War III scenario, you're just not getting on the mainstream news. So, anyway, but you'll be getting it eventually, because when war hits home, that's when it happens. Anyway, none of the stuff has happened yet. I hope it doesn't happen, but if we take the advice of Ursula von der Leyen, which is the president of Europe, now's the time to get prepared. You don't wait for the crises to happen before you get prepared. All right, everybody. So I'll see you probably next Saturday night. If not, I will be there. It'll be a week after that. But I'm expecting in 6 days on Saturday to come back and do the next Farsight Spotlight, okay? And I hope you've enjoyed this. And remember, this video is available just in a couple hours on FARSIGHT'S.com, the entire thing. All right? All right, everybody. And we will publish the entire thing next week on YouTube. All right? All right, everybody. In fact, that's what we may do for next week, publish the entire thing on Sunday, because I won't be able to put up a live stream on Sunday. So that may be what we do on Sunday. All right. But anyway, everybody on FARSIGHT'S.com, you get it now. See you shortly, okay? Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.